Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Newcastle podcast. My name is Michael Grahamsall, and I am your host today. And I am joined by nobody. Yes, it is just me today. I just wanted to give an update on our end because we did say we were going to do an episode yesterday, Ian and myself. Ian is unfortunately a little caught up, so I wanted to make sure that there was at least something to go out today with an update because we're the Daily Newcastle. We're not whenever we feel like Newcastle. So we're going to get something out there and respond to the fact we were ranting and raving yesterday about how today could be a significant day in the transfer window, and well, that hasn't come to fruition. And when I say statements like that, I probably need to be reprimanded when they go wrong. So, who better to do that than myself? We'll start off with Joao Pedro. Literally about 20 minutes after we finished recording yesterday, it was announced that he was on his way to Chelsea. It is confirmed he'll join with the team in the US for 60 million. What do you think about that in regards to value? Is it a good value for money signing in the modern day? Let me know. Personally, I don't think it would have been good value for money for Newcastle. I think it is probably good value for money for Chelsea. Um, but at the same time, the last thing they need is squad depth and someone that can play across all four positions up front, because they've got about 7 players who can play all 4 positions up front. They're going to have to do a lot of sales towards the end of the window, and some teams are going to get some maybe discounted signings for the likes of Christopher Nkunku, or maybe in Newcastle's mind, Noni Madueke. But I think we're probably getting ahead of ourselves there. There's an Anthony Alanga saga to go in the next 3 weeks before then, so we'll focus on that. But yes, Joao Pedro was probably the most complicated deal of the window for me, Newcastle-wise, because I'm not really 100% sure where he would have fit in. He can play anywhere across the four, as I've mentioned, but his best position is behind the striker, which Newcastle don't play with. We don't play with a number 10, and I don't think we ever have under Eddie Howe. I might be wrong. Maybe we switched to it in a game where we were trailing, and we played Anthony Gordon in the 10 maybe, or we must push Bruno Guimaraes further forward potentially. Maybe we've done it once or twice, but I certainly can't remember it. And then with Pedro, you've got the incident between him and Van Hecker, which happened in May, which led to Joao Pedro not starting the final games of the season. Um, it's a difficult one, but what I've seen quite a lot, particularly from our fans, a bit from Man United fans who are upset about Mbeumo taking so long as well. Welcome to our world. But it's people saying, "Oh, Chelsea get all their business done in hours." This is like, "Oh, this must be brilliant." I nearly said brilliant, trying to compress Mbeumo and brilliant together wouldn't have worked. Much like a lot of transfer strategies we've seen in June. But I digress. Yeah. What I'd seen from Chelsea was that they were linked with Joao Pedro for a lot of April and May, and a lot of Chelsea fans were saying they didn't want him because, if I'm being nice, they were saying he was average at best. So if it feels like it's come from nowhere, it actually hasn't. So yeah, on that side, I think because it didn't really make sense from a Newcastle point of view, looking from the outside in, Eddie Howe might have really liked the player, and that's why we were going for him. But it feels like it's agent talk to me more than anything else. And speaking of things that didn't really make sense, actually, I'm just going to quickly touch on something from Aston Villa. No, not the women's team. I will get to that a little bit later. But John Duran's transfer from Al Nassr to Fenerbahce, if people haven't seen, they're going to pay 7 million as a loan fee for Duran, and then pay the 15 million of his yearly wage. Which I'm not having a go at our owners. Because I do know that in the Mike Ashley era, I'd be sitting here right now and celebrating the signing of Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a second striker behind Callum Wilson. Um, so yeah, it could be a lot worse. But if I own a football club, and I definitely don't have the money to, but if I own a football club and it's a league that realistically is miles behind, and I own a league, sorry, that is miles behind where that club is. Football club is in the Premier League, up there with maybe Brazil in Spain with the most passionate fan bases. Argentina's obviously in there as well. Italy, you could argue. Commercially, the UK and England is where it's at. If I've got a club in that league, and then I own a league pretty much that very few people outside of my country or my region, maybe the Middle East as a whole, cares a bit more about the Saudi league. Um, they don't really care outside of that. I'm not giving Newcastle's biggest rival for challenging that top six, top four, whatever it is the aim. 70 million for their second choice centre forward to sign for a team that, let's be honest, didn't need a striker because they've got Cristiano Ronaldo up front, who can still do a job in a lot of leagues, probably could have still done a job in the top 5 league, but for some reason sitting in the Saudi league at the moment. I suppose he wants to get his stats up, that's fine. But I find it baffling. And I know that Newcastle United isn't the Saudis' number one priority. It's growing the reach of Saudi Arabia in sport as a whole. I've accepted that. I don't mind that. But they claim to want to make us competitive, but it all just feels horrifically amateur to me. Let's say, for example, you're hosting a boxing event in Saudi Arabia. That's like saying to the United Kingdom, going, right, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury have finally agreed to fight. Right, so there's your big event. We'll give you a certain amount of money to put that event on. And it's, you can't guarantee it'll be the biggest event of the year, but you're pretty guaranteed that, you're giving them the money to do that. And it's enabling your competitors to do better. And I'm not a businessman. I'm not clever enough for that kind of stuff. But from the outside looking in, it feels a bit amateurish, and we're a lot better than that as a club. But one positive does look like James Trafford. We've spoken about him a fair bit over the last few days, so I don't want to overdo it. But it's 30 million that Newcastle are going to spend for the Burnley goalkeeper. Whether or not that represents good value or not, I'm not 100% sure. But I think 30 million for a player who we could have for the next 10 years and realistically be our number one for the next 10 years, if he kicks on, that's 3 million a year, really, if you consider it that way. That's not bad at all, but of course, he's got to translate his form from last season into this campaign. And it could be a great sign, and it could be a phenomenal sign. And I know I've said in the past, it doesn't get me excited. It really doesn't. But there is, and the reason it doesn't get me excited, because there is a concern that he got dropped in the Burnley's last Premier League campaign for Muric, who, I'm going to continue being kind and say he's a confidence goalkeeper that I've never seen play with any confidence, if that makes sense. I don't think I've ever seen him have a good game. He's from the Manchester City Academy. He does well in the Championship, or so I'm led to believe. I haven't seen it. But when it's come to the Premier League, when I've seen him, he's always looked relatively dodgy. So that is a worry. And then I think when you look at it, we've also then likely got half of our squad, maybe a bit more actually, set for the next 5 to 10 years. Because then you've got James Trafford in goal, you've got Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall as your fullbacks, both under 23. I think one of them might have hit 23. Sven Botman, who, to be fair, is probably more of a 5-year. He's 26 now. Tonali, they're 26. Lewis Miley, I know his growth stunted a bit this past year, but he's got all the potential in the world. And then you got Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, who obviously both linked away, but you're looking at it there and going, for 5 years at least, you've got a great spine. And I haven't even mentioned Bruno there, actually, who's only 28. And the way he plays, he could keep going until he's 33 in a Premier League midfield and still not look out of place. So we're definitely sorted for at least 5 years. And that probably tells you we only need 2 players for our spine for the foreseeable future. And wow, that's really exciting stuff, actually, when you think about it. 2 signings away from a top 4 team for the next 5 years, in my opinion. But let me know what you think about that. For now, I'm going to go into a break with the Bionic advert, and I will see you soon. Okay, and we're back. So we spoke about the future of the team, a bit of Joao Pedro in the first part. What I want to talk about now is the third kit video that was literally released about an hour and a half ago as I'm recording this. Um, I want to know what everyone's thoughts are about it. Personally, I really like it. I do have to say, as much as I love Sam Fender, could we please not have him in every single video? I like the guy. I've seen him live 3 times, but he features more than anybody else these days. I'm starting to think he'll be in a kit next season. But that's the bit I didn't like. I say I didn't like. I did like, but I couldn't. I'm a little frustrated by. But the bits I love that Czech Tiote's volley against Arsenal was included, and the Jonas Gutierrez goal against West Ham, um, and that Tiote was alongside the pictures of Speed and Pav. But the Tiote goal and Gutierrez were two monumental moments of the Mike Ashley era, and we wouldn't be here without them. So, it was beautiful stuff. No, that Gutierrez goal, I was working in the stadium at the time. Um, and generally, I don't think I've seen so many people so happy to stay in a league because, yeah, those John Carver times were tough, man, weren't they? But better times today. And I'm also not sure if anyone noticed the Osula and Isaac shirts that they were wearing. It looks to be another couple of retro shirts that look absolutely beautiful. I can't say I'm a massive fan of the strip itself, but I think that's just because of the badge. I think it's the black background on the badge that I don't like, and everyone's talking about the neck. I actually don't mind the neck at all. But I'll be honest, the video is a lot better than the kit. And there's the bit that hit me with the video was the once a local, always a hero. Now that applies to every single one of them. If Isaac leaves, he's still a hero. If Gordon leaves, he's still a hero. I can name 10 others in the same vein. But the bit that sort of gets misconstrued is that's about fans as well. It's not just about players. I was fortunate to be born in the RVI. My parents tried to get me born in the stadium. It didn't quite work out. Shout out to my parents for the attempt, at least. But I saw Newcastle in the Champions League as a bairn. I was a junior magpie for about 10 years. But it doesn't make me any more of a Geordie than anyone else. It doesn't make me any better a fan than anyone else either. Whether you like me and you've been around for what feels like forever, well, actually, it has been forever, or you're a foreign fan who, saw us once and went, I quite like them, and followed us ever since. And there's a fan in Japan who was in the video who literally followed us from an Alan Pardew headbutt. And to be honest, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. As I remember that game vividly, and I remember thinking, I love Pardew, but that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, for me, you want to be a Geordie, all you have to do is follow the mags through thick and thin. And as long as you do that, you're Geordie enough for me. And well, I'm not my approval means nothing, but I feel like there's a lot of Geordies out there who do feel the same. Um, and then one final thing, actually, I started with something I don't like. I've gone through the things that I do like. There's a lot of nice references in there as well, but I could talk about it for another 10 minutes. But underneath the video, the comments were filled with fans saying, "Sign some players," and right. I've met a few of the lads in the content and the marketing team. It's actually a delightful group of lads and lasses, but none of them have the capabilities of putting a £50 million bid in for Anthony Alanga. So stop telling them to sign some players. You just look like a numpty. Good lads. Right. After that, I'll go into the last part. Whew, got a bit of heat there. But we did see a little bit of action on the old PSR deadline day as Aston Villa sold their women's team for 52 million. Gets them out of PSR trouble. We were thinking potentially we might be able to capitalise with a signing of a Jacob Ramsey or someone like that. It would have been nice, but they've done the same thing Chelsea did a while back. I'd be interested to hear what some people think about that. Obviously, I believe they did a vote on it not that long ago. At least that's what someone was telling me, and a lot of teams said that it was fine. So it's not going away anytime soon. But let me your thoughts. My thoughts are that honestly, at this point, good for them. Do it. I can't blame them. Aston Villa are taking every advantage that they can and finding a way to make it work. And if Chelsea are going to do it, then why can't clubs like Newcastle and Aston Villa? I'm not a massive fan of Villa. I think their fans are up there with ours, as in the amount of numpties that are in the fan base. I always say 5% of every fan base you want to have blocked on any social media. Villa, it might be 5-10%, but there are a good chunk of them that are, just like Newcastle fans, passionate and genuinely quite canny people. But as a club, I'm not really a massive fan. So it's annoying that they're taking advantage. I wish we were in position to do the same. But it adds just a little bit of pressure to Becky Langley to get the Newcastle lasses into a good position. And if you're wondering sort of what the lasses are up to, Joe, who is part of our team, as you already know, you're listening to this. She's done a fantastic pod a few days back about the Newcastle United lasses. Go and give that a listen. It's a great listen, and you'll learn a lot about the women's team. It certainly gave me a bit of knowledge that I didn't have. But selling the women's team, we will do the same one day. It just simply isn't profitable or smart to do it now. It's one of those where we could probably sell the women's team for 20-25 million. If you inflate it to try and get around things, you could maybe make it 40 million and say, oh, it's the potential of the club because of attendances and stuff like that. But it realistically isn't smart or profitable to do so right now, particularly when if Becky Langley can get Newcastle into the Premier League or the Super League, should I say, they'll do so much better and we'll have a lot more money to play with. But yeah, it's been a strange window, a lot happening. We're actually going to get into the juicy bit of it in July. We're only in June, but it's been fun for everyone that isn't a Newcastle fan. But we will sign some players. We will get somewhere. We just got to keep the faith and keep our head down. Easier said than done. But it's only going to get stranger from here. And that is all from me here at the Daily Newcastle podcast. I'm off. We kind of held off to try and get some news, which led to it just being me, unfortunately. Nothing's come. Hopefully Trafford comes in the door in the next couple of days. That's all from me. Hope you've enjoyed listening, and we'll see you next time.